Welcome back to Chaos Corner. It's me. It's me. It's the G.O.C. here to start a new series here on Chaos Corner, because over the next several podcasts, we're going to look back on the life and times in the current book. Well, not that I'm reading, but that I'm rereading. And that would be Bobby the Brain Heenan Tells All. It's an unbelievable read. I'm going to start off with some news and notes about the Brain, one of the world's most famous pro wrestling managers. To be quite honest, a style and a man who I used as part of my gimmick and my gimmick as well. As I've said before, parts of one of the biggest influences, Captain Lou Albano, James E. Cornette, different guys that I've taken from their personas and learning as a young man, and by talking to them and picking their brain and put it into my style of what I do on my own in independent critical thinking for the G.O.C. Big Daddy character. So sit back, relax. Let's see how this turns out. It's a Monday morning. I get it. I'm going to do a little reading. I'm going to do some reporting. This is going to be a series I'm going to put up on all social media platforms. We're here in the lounge at Chaos Corner. And guess what? It's empty. I have my coffee with the espresso, as they say, because somebody corrected me on the last podcast I did here, because I'm always pushing out content. You know that, fans. One man, unique, unedited, unscripted. This is reality TV. You want to call it a podcast? Well, okay. But somebody corrected me and said, I said espresso. I said espresso. So I just want to throw that out there and correct people. You see that I have some music in the background. We don't have to deal with Alexa this time because I unplugged it. But this is interesting. I want you guys to stick around. I'm going to give you some news and notes. Let me have a sip of the espresso. And we're going to get going here on a Monday. I'm feeling good, man. We're positive. We have our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. It doesn't get better than that. So stick with me on all social media platforms, and you know what they are. Here on YouTube, all you have to do is go to your laptop, your mobile device, punch in and type in Guardian of Chaos. That'll bring you to here, the mothership on YouTube. In real time on Twitter, it's at Big Daddy G.O.C. And the G.O.C. stands for the Guardian of Chaos. On Instagram, it's the Guardian of Chaos. I have 2 accounts on Facebook. That's right, I have 2. J Brony, you get it, Jabroni. You get the whole work and see what I did there, right? It was because I'm in entertainment. Cut me some slack. Those of you that know me and know my name. And also my other account on Facebook, Prodigio Fidelis El Guardian. Follow me on Gitter, Gab, Truth Social. I cover it all on the IWC because it's me. I'm even on Rumble. So guys, check me out, okay? Leave a comment, hit the like button, subscribe, spread the word, share this. Even if you don't like it, hit the down button. Get us in the algorithm. I put the time and effort into here for you, the fans. Well, and because I would do it anyway, and it's my stress reliever. You guys get that? What do you think of the new cap? What do you think? Little change. It's cold outside here in the greater New England tri-state northeast area. You guys get that, right? Although it's unseasonably up and down. Does that make sense? Anyway, kick back, relax. I'm hoping that this is coming across and coming out. I'm not quite sure. We're hoping the camera's going good here. I want to read some news and notes and give you some stats that we know about the Brain. God rest his soul. It's just about 5 years since Bobby the Brain Heenan has passed. Again, a guy that I grew up with from as a teenager into my 40s, and so just let that educate what's going to happen here as class is in session, and we get to this book again. This book was written in 2002. The Brain passed in 2017. We're in 2022. I hate saying 2002, 2017, because it's not. It's really 2002 or 2002, 2017, the 2022. You guys get that, right? Anyway, so some news and notes. Give me a second. Kick back, relax, grab something. It's early. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out. Let's get cooking here. Let's get going. What am I looking on the camera? All right, just to give you a couple of news and notes that we know and that I did gather, but just to refresh our memory here, this is going to be a series, as I said here on YouTube. This is going to be the first part to throw it out there, to see how it comes out, to see what the reaction is. And then, of course, I'm going to have a couple of different parts because the book itself. But again, and this is right, I believe, after he figured out, or the doctors had figured out, and they diagnosed the brain with cancer, with throat cancer, that he had battled for quite some time, as if you guys know the history. So what we come up with and what we know, 2002 he was diagnosed. Again, God rest his soul. Different things. The brain debuted in 1961 as we go through our history. He retired in April of 2001. I believe he passed, according to my notes and research, because I try to be prepared. You guys know that here on Chaos Corner. September 17th, 2017, at the age of 72. So let's, correct me if I can be corrected. Look, I was corrected already. I tell you that this is reality TV. I bring you into my home here in the lounge or the bunker or the executive boardroom or the offices. The only place you don't go, like I said before, is the latrine or the boudoir, right? So do your research and you can leave a comment and correct me. But this is what I've come up with. I know that the brain, from research and over the history of me being a scout, my over 50 years, we know that, a SMARC, an agent, being in the business. Yeah, Mark, that's right, I'll say it. And then, of course, my over 3 decades, 30 plus years as a pro wrestling manager. I mean, I've talked to them and consulted with them all, whether it be briefly or in depth. From Bruno Sammartino to Captain Lou to Jim Cornette to Gary Hart to Bill Alfonso to Joel Gertner. I mean, all different guys and different styles from different eras. I mean, okay, let me not get crazy. It's the espresso. Go back and check out the last videos. I'm pumping out the content. I found a nice little setup here in the lounge, and I think I'm going to stick with it for now. Again, back to the brain. Born November 1st, 1944. My father was born in 44. Was that 43? How bad? It's right there. 5'10", 240 to give you his vital statistics. Now, let's look at Bobby's career, which started, again, I said debuted in 61, retired in April 2001. In the mid-60s is when he was in Indianapolis and in that area, maybe even Detroit, but it was with the WWA, Dick the Bruiser's territory. That's where I believe Heenan got his start. And then look at where he went to Georgia Championship Wrestling briefly for about a year, according to his own personal book. Again, take a screenshot, whatever you want to do. Bobby the Brain tells all, guys. Okay? And if you don't have it, email me, will you? chaosbigdaddy2@yahoo.com. We'll talk. Georgia Championship Wrestling in 79. And then he spent the next 10 years, the next decade, in Vern Gagne's AWA. So that's roughly 1979 to 1984, according to his couple of books that are out there and things that have been released about the brain. What I remember from videotapes that I have down in the bunker before I came up here, I was down in the bunker going through some old videotapes and books and things that I'm currently in, projects that I'm trying to do and put out there, like this series of the brain and relating it to managers. If you go back and look at, I just did a video on pro wrestling managers, a 3-parter from the Pro Wrestling Idiot's Guide. Captain Lou and Burt Randolph Sugar, a match made in heaven. Go back and check out what I'm doing here. You don't get this kind of content. I'm not going to give you... I do give you the live WWE pay-per-views, live-to-tape watch-alongs here on the channel. I do that with AEW Dynamite, usually every week. And if I'm not here on YouTube, then I'm on Twitter. That's why those are the 2 accounts that I post daily on. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I try to push them out. And so check out the community section. You'll see some unbelievable photos of the people that I've been honored and blessed to work with. Again, we know what it's all about. Let me not just get crazy here. So Heenan spent 10 years in the AWA. and his huge association with the legend over there, Nick Bockwinkel. We don't have to run through everything. We'll be here forever. We're going to cover this in a lot of the book, so that we're not going to have to worry about. If it's not Alexa, it's YouTube. It's something. Technology is a double-edged sword. You guys know that, right? So bear with me. This is why we don't edit anything, and it's live to tape, whether it's my Maine Coon jumping up here, or somebody interrupting, or a kickboxing class in the back, or when we had a live studio a la like Prime Time with Bobby Heenan and Gorilla down in the bunker. I mean, it's all coming back, guys. We're coming back. Stay positive. So 10 years in the AWA, and of course, his legendary stuff with Ray Stevens, the crippler Ray Stevens and Nick Bockwinkel. That's where he spent 10 years and 14 years in total, because Heenan had 2 runs in the AWA. Stop telling me what camera to look at. So 2 times he was in the AWA, and if you total up his 2 times in the AWA, I believe I do my math according to their statistics and what the Brain had said, 14 years out of his career in the AWA. As a territory, and one of the big 3 promotions at one time, the AWA. I really enjoyed the AWA when I was in my early and middle 20s. AWA was solid product. I even worked for a spin-off, the AWA Superstars of Wrestling myself, and was fortunate enough to work with King Kong Bundy and the Disciples of Apocalypse and the 2 twin turbos in Heaven and Hell, Steve and Larry Gligorovic. And it was unbelievable. We had Terry Funk on the show. I was able to work against him. Unbelievable. The video's on the channel, and being able to manage Josh Matthews from Impact Wrestling and his debut bout for the World Wrestling Zone in WWZ. That's also where I had a chance from the AWA Superstars and Dale Gagne, and Justin Roberts was able to meet Justin as a teenager in early 20s, and we bonded a friendship, all of us, and even including Steve Iceless, the Navajo warrior, strong man. So that's back in the 90s into the early 2000s. So the relationships are there. So it's nice to see all that. And speaking of the AWA, we make it relatable, and that's what you get on this show. That's why this is reality. It's just not a podcast. It's TV, a film, movie, whatever you want to call it, because we've done it all here. It's me. It's me. It's the G.O.C. Keep it on. Turn it around. Does it matter? Is anybody watching? All right, we'll turn it around. We'll give you different looks. We'll turn it around. Hey, Bobby the Brain Heenan. There's nobody crazier or wackier than the Brain. Perhaps the greatest manager of all time. Some people say Jim Cornette. Some people say Paul Heyman. People go back to the Arnold Skolin days and just some of the original managers of pro wrestling. A lot of people talk about Jimmy Hart. I mean, everyone has their place. You can't forget the Grand Wizard or Freddie Blassie. And, of course, Captain Lou Albano. I mean, look at the different wrestlers from different territories, and then wrestlers that became managers. Of course, J.J. Dillon. I mean, the list goes on and on with managers. I go back and check out the show that I did. We're talking about the Brain. We're already 14 minutes in here. I'm going to put this part up, and this will be the first opening monologue, the introduction to Bobby the Brain Heenan, wrestling's bad boy, tells it all. And the foreword was by Hogan. So I'm going to get to all that, guys. Thanks for being here. Can't do it without you. So 14 years in total for Heenan in the AWA, 79 to 84. I'm sorry. Let me get my facts straight. 14 years, and then he came back on his second run from 79 to 84. Then after that, 93 to 84 to 93, after he left the AWA, his 2 runs, that's when he went for the next 9 years. And when he was more over and popular and had more heat than anybody in perhaps the history of pro wrestling, for what he did as a color commentator, a former pro wrestler briefly, and pro wrestling manager. I mean, Heenan did it all, from taking the bumps to doing the vignettes and his creativity. So 84 to 9 years in the World Wrestling Federation. It wasn't the WWE, it was the World Wrestling Federation. So that and then not even close. You know how long his career spans. We said it from 61 to 2001. And even beyond that, when I give you the other tidbits and notes that I have here in Chaos Corner, live to tape, from the lounge. Uh, how could we have here on different independent platforms and stuff commercials? This is what happens. And this won't be edited out. This will be in the tape. So you guys leave a comment. So 84 to 93, that's when we know he teamed up with Gorilla Monsoon, his legendary friendships with Mean Gene Okerlund and some of the other stars. And we're going to go through that and we'll read it through the book. I just wanted to give you an introductory part here of Bobby the Brain Heenan. Again, very influential in my character as well. Never had the chance to meet Heenan. Never worked with him, obviously. That would have been something because we were in the same circles near the end of his career. What a legend. And then after his 9 years in the WWF, he went from 94 to 2000 in WCW. So it is 65 in the middle 60s, and he's in the WWA, Dick the Bruiser's territory in Indianapolis. He ends up down south in Georgia Championship Wrestling for a brief run from 70, not even after that, from whatever the 10-year span is from 8 in the 70s in the AWA. I don't have the accurate years. How bad is that here on Chaos Corner with all the homework that I do? But that 10-year stretch for the AWA, 10 years, and then 79 to 84 on his second run. Then 84 to 93, 9 years in the WWF. 94 to 2000, 7 years in WCW, manager, color commentator. So to give you the overall view, let's look briefly at the Heenan family. We know in his time in the WWF, prime time with Gorilla Monsoon was unbelievable. One of my favorite shows. People talk about being, Mario Mancini and I talk about it. Former grappler for the WWE from 84 to 92. My former co-host on a podcast, Mario and Chaos Show, and the current owner of PAPW, Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. As we always talk about, the different things and color commentators and people that can put other people over. And this is a perfect example of Bobby the Brain Heenan. As a matter of fact, Mario worked with half of these guys. In the Heenan family, from Stud versus Andre to Patera, Orndorff to Brainbusters, Buddy Rose, Bundy, Rick Rude, Harley Race, the Islanders, Hercules Hernandez, the Barbarian, Mr. Perfect, Haku, Ric Flair in his run from 91 to 93 in the World Wrestling Federation. And prime time with Gorilla Monsoon was none better. And that's what Mario and I talk about as we try to do different things, and we had our own show because he likes to consider it. And if you've seen him on his shows that he does, the Mario Mancini show and different podcasts that he's on, he said, I got in to be a pro wrestler and wrestling and not a sports entertainer, not entertainment. He's right about that, especially back in the golden era, as we call it, the boom of the 80s into the early 90s, especially the middle 80s and late 80s. But there's also that entertainment part of it that comes into it for a mix, as long as it's not too comedic and it's believable. Primetime is a perfect example, and that's where I come in. That's the stuff that I love. So to circle back around, I hate to use that phrase because of the people in this country and how crazy they are in this world, but that's another story for another time. Getting back to the Heenan family and the different people that he managed, from Bockwinkel to the Heenan family to WCW to the AWA, managing Andre and Bundy in WrestleManias 2 and 3 as a tag team, and then was against Andre originally with Big John Studd. Now, briefly, if you guys remember, in 2004, he had a brief run in Ring of Honor with Jim Cornette, where they had a feud amongst managers when Cornette was working in 2004 for Ring of Honor. So he did work for other companies besides the big three, a so-called independent, if you want to say. And he did do that near the end of his career because he was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in class of 2004. 2005, he was in TNA briefly, if you remember and do your history. I was still active in the business as a manager myself in those years when he was doing Ring of Honor and TNA, about a year in each. Then you remember, if we go back a flashback to history of what I remember. So So I'm probably in my middle 30s. I'm in the business at that time. The infamous Brian Pillman incident on TV for WCW, where Pillman was doing, the cannon, the loose cannon gimmick, and rolled out of the ring and kind of like, tugged at Heenan, horse collared him, and it was well known that Heenan had serious neck injuries. That was legit. You guys remember that? When was that? Middle 90s. When was 96, 95? Someone correct me. So as we run through his different career, and I know I'm bouncing all over the place, but it was mainly in those three big companies. 14, I'm repeating again, I get it. 14 years in the AWA, 9 in the WWF, 7 in WCW, a few years in the WWA, a year in Georgia Championship Wrestling, a year in Ring of Honor, TNA. Before, he was diagnosed with the big C word in 2002. Again, passed in 2017, as we said. So those are the brief. Listen, and we talk about his color commentary and broadcast work, and I can go on and on here before we get into the book, but I'm going to make this like a 20-minute, 25-minute opening monologue, so I hope you find it interesting. Stick with me and come back as I go through the book. And I talk about what he did with Mean Gene Okerlund and with Jesse Ventura and Gorilla Monsoon with Primetime and WWF Superstars and all the Saturday and night or Saturday mornings and all the stuff that Heenan did. He did much more than that. And in WCW, he was the one that was bringing along Shivani and Bischoff and even Mongo McMichael, if I'm not mistaken, in those years from 84 to 93 when he was in the, I'm sorry, let me get my notes straight. From 94 to 2000 when Brain was in WCW. So the different broadcast partners and feuds that he had. And again, I can go on to all the different champions that he's had on here, but we'll be here forever. This is supposed to be my opening monologue, and I'm not even done yet. You have another shot. He's been on Regis and Kathy Lee, Family Feud, Nickelodeon Awards, the Jerry Lewis Telethon, Arsenio Hall Show, Dennis Miller, a 4-time Pro Wrestling Illustrated, when it meant something, Manager of the Year. In the real Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame and Museum, class of 2006, he was inducted. Also into the legendary class of 2006 St. Louis Wrestling Hall of Fame, going back to the territory days, and Phil Mushnick that was out there. Is it Phil Mushnick? Or is that the columnist that's for the New York Times? Sam Mushnick. That's who it is. It's the espresso. Phil Mushnick. Sam Mushnick. As a matter of fact, Phil Mushnick was an asshole because he tried to bring down pro wrestling, especially in the Northeast and then in New York for the WWF. Mushnick, although we've been on the same show before when I was on the Worldwide Dino Costa show, the former Sirius XM host, we were on... Mushnick hated wrestling, but Sam Mushnick in St. Louis, does it get any better than that, St. Louis wrestling? So class of 2006, and then one of the most prestigious awards from the Cauliflower Alley Club in 2004, the Brain got the Iron Mike Mazurki Award. So pretty impressive stuff. We know 2004 WWE, now it was WWF when Heenan was there. He was in the class of 2004 Hall of Fame. So some incredible awards in what we're talking about, what we're going to cover here, what you have to look forward to coming up with covering Bobby the Brain Heenan, the bad boy, tells it all. And I never did take a sip of the espresso, did I? A big shout out to Red Skies, a little, and no disrespect to anyone, but a little Dr. Disrespect, right? Stand by, don't go anywhere. This is, instead of a 10-minute opening monologue, this is a 25 opening minute monologue here on Chaos Corner, live to tape from the lounge with your old buddy, the G.O.C., because I'll say that to say this. I tell it like it is, and you guys know that. Stand by, don't go anywhere. Come on back. It's Monday. I got to push out the content. We're getting that 4,000 watch hours. We're getting that 1,000 subscribers. Don't you dare miss it.